Taking a tour of where your finances can go? Good plan. See how Northwestern Mutual's approach to financial planning is designed for your goals. Goals like protecting loved ones, growing investments, and planning for retirement. With our interactive tour, you'll discover how growth and protection work together to help make your dreams a reality. See what goes into a good financial plan at northwesternmutual.com/tour. The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
When you're ready to pop the question, the last thing you want to do is second-guess the ring. At BlueNile.com, you can design a one-of-a-kind ring with the ease and convenience of shopping online. Choose your diamond and setting. When you find the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code WELCOME to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code WELCOME at BlueNile.com for $50 off your purchase. BlueNile.com, code WELCOME.
When it comes to teaching kids and teens about money, practice makes perfect. That's where Greenlight comes in. With a debit card and money app of their own, kids learn to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest. Parents send instant money transfers, create custom chores, and automate allowance, while kids track their spending, set savings goals, and practice money skills they can use today and for life. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code PLAY100. That's code PLAY100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, this is international football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Ranks FC podcast.
Hello Rank Squad and welcome to Champions League Takeaway here on Ranks FC, looking at the second legs of this week's Champions League quarter-final ties. We have our last 4. Manchester City will play Real Madrid, and we have a Derby della Madonnina in the other semi-final. Last one perhaps ever at San Siro will take place between Inter and AC in Milan. Very, very exciting. My name is Jack Collins and I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by the rank god, Mr. Sam Ty. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. Yes, very well, thank you. Interesting game for me tonight, and did get some excitement. We weren't 100% sure, were we, in the preview, what we were going to get, if it was going to explode into life. Safe to say, it actually did. Yeah, it got lively. It got lively, and of course, our transfer guru, Mr. Dean Jones. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, both my games were pretty much done deals before we even kicked off. But yeah, there's some interesting factors that we'll be talking about here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to start with you, Dean, and we're going to start with what happened in Bavaria tonight. Bayern Munich won, Manchester City won, which means that City won 4-1 on aggregate. What have you got for me?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Bayern won, City won on the night. And to be honest, Bayern played well, but they also seemed quite anxious. Thomas Tuchel was on one, is how I'd put it. I've never seen a more obvious red card coming than Thomas Tuchel's tonight. It was very strange. He wasn't composed at all. He was shouting and hollering from pretty much the first minute. His mind just seemed to be erratic. And I felt it was kind of reflected in his players, especially people like Sané, because when big moments came and arrived in the first half, when Bayern definitely could have got back into this tie, they didn't quite have the calmness you would expect, which was a shame because they were actually dealing with the game itself really well. They were positive. The structure of their team was very good. They were matching City and more, to be honest. And yeah, you just thought if they could have got that opening goal in the first half, something special might have been able to happen. Now, the ref got caught up in this madness too, to be honest. It felt a little bit at times like it was the me show, so occasionally refs get on an ego trip, and it felt a little bit like that at times. I mean, he absolutely lost his...
Mateo Lahoz?
It was a weird one, right? I don't know if you saw it, Jack. Upamecano got a red card in the first half.
Yeah.
For chopping down Haaland as last man. But as soon as the ref gave a red card, I'm like, what are you doing? Haaland's offside. He's definitely offside. And then the ref looks over at his lino and he's like, oh. He hasn't even looked at it. He just issued a red card without checking with anyone whether there's a reason this shouldn't happen.
The flag did go up late. And it was actually, to be fair, a closer offside call than I thought to begin with. At first, I was like, well, he
brandished
offside.
that red card
but actually
so fast.
Yes,
I've never seen such a quick red card.
I do think that the lino hadn't actually put the flag up at the time where the red card was given. And then
they never do anyway.
You always wait.
You always wait.
He was offside.
Anyway.
It was a red card. If he had been onside, it was a red card. He took him out. He was last man. So there is that element of it. But I do completely appreciate what you're saying in terms of how quick it came out and how speedy he was to give it away.
I felt sorry for Upamecano throughout both games, really. Terrible time of things, especially the penalty conceded in 35 minutes. I mean, he literally is trying to keep his hands behind his back and can't. And they say, your hands shouldn't be in an unnatural position. The penalty is given because they're saying his hands in an unnatural... It couldn't be a more natural position. He's literally trying to keep his hands behind his back. And the momentum and his own player chopping him down means he kind of puts an arm out for balance. That was mad too. Anyway, Haaland missed the penalty. Didn't matter in the end. It was just chaos. That's my first point. The loud stadium was a disruptive game. It was mad Champions League football. Mane even came on for Sané. They had to slap hands and come on for it. It was ridiculous. Mane's trying to give it, we're all fine here, 2 hands up, waiting to slap his hand. And Sané, casually, flicks his hand out and then just about touches his...
Sané ducks and wins.
Yeah, it was when, you've had a row with your missus or whatever, and one of you realises you're in the wrong, so you're trying to be happy and put it behind you, and the other one's absolutely no chance, I'm not talking to you for ages. It was literally like that. But yeah, look, Bayern did play well. And number 2, this is quite a quick one, really. Kingsley Coman was, in the first half, the best player on the pitch. A real spark for Bayern Munich. And there was a moment, actually, when he left Akanji for dead. Sam, I know you weren't watching this game, but you're going to be seeing this moment because it's going to be a meme. It's going to be on highlights for years. The way he went past him like he was a cone, it was brilliant. Look, Coman isn't someone that we've spoken about that much on this pod for a long time, really. So even though I'm going to keep this bit brief, it was great to see him playing like this. He started about half of Bayern's games this season. He's 26 now. This was a really good performance and really a sign of consistency. We could be talking about him in a good way a lot more frequently again. So I was pleased to see him put in a performance like this.
Yeah, living up to his Instagram handle, right? Ever since he's taken a handle at king. It's been upwardly trajectory for Kingsley Coman. Such a good handle. But also, yeah, he was absolutely brilliant tonight. He really did. I think he was the best player in the across the kind of course of the game, if I'm honest. Obviously, it got a bit more scrappy and a bit more end to end over the course of it. But I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, who would you give man of the match to? And my man of the match would have been Kingsley Coman, despite the fact that he's on the side that's just been brutally dumped out 4-1 on aggregate. They have drawn tonight, and he was the best player on the park. So I think from that kind of perspective, it's quite difficult. But yeah, a really good game for him. This is not the first time that Kingsley Coman has turned up in this competition. It will not be the last. No. And his run at the moment of just success on success on success goes on. He will go down as one of the world's most decorated players by the time he retires.
Yeah, look,
we always miss him out, don't we, in the conversation? Kind of, he's very forgettable.
I honestly don't think we've spoken about him all season on any pod.
It's not fair because he's really good. He always plays for top teams. He always does a really important role. Like, he's always there for France. Like, he's won a World Cup. He's nearly won a second one. You know, he's won like 9 league titles in a row. No one ever talks about him.
Madness.
I think it's more than that, isn't it?
That's why I had to go and look up his age, because I was like, I want to check that we haven't just missed his whole career here, and then like a really good career, and not really giving him any credit. So I was like, anyway, he's getting a mention tonight, even though Bayern are out of the Champions League. Look, number one, obviously, the main thing we take from this is that City have an edge and a belief that I don't think they've had before in this competition. They now head into one of the most exciting semi-finals we could have hoped for, and they've got a really good chance. They hit Bayern on the break here to go 1-0 up. Yes, Upamecano slipped. Yes, he had a tragic 2 games. But look, Haaland just hitting different. And Man City with him in the Champions League is a different type of battle that the other teams have got to come up against. 48 goals now for Haaland in 41 games for Man City. Look, he's having an unbelievable season, obviously. And for Man City, like, there's hope here that they could got a treble in their hands. Like, they've genuinely got a shot here at a treble. So this is quite a climax to a season for them. They've had doubts in their season. It looked like they might even be drifting out of the title race at one point, and they've kept in that. And now they're showing their Champions League credentials. It's Real Madrid versus Man City, and that is going to be absolutely fascinating. Obviously, last season, Madrid edged it. We saw one of the best Champions League semi-finals you'll see in that 4-3, and then eventually ends up going to extra time, and Real Madrid get the job done at home in the second leg, and they make it to the final and win it. This time, we're going to see the first game at the Bernabeu, May the 9th. And Man City are going to do more than mix it here, because the truth is Man City are the better team right now. They function better more often. They have better individuals. And while in any other season you would doubt their mentality, I think we are seeing a moment here when they genuinely can seek revenge. Like, I can't wait for that game. It's going to be brilliant. Look, Man City, in this Bayern game, they knew that they were going to have a challenge on their hands, but they matched the aggression. They were patient. They hit him on the counter. Haaland scores again. And yeah, we've now got an elite clash on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted about this, the fact that we saw the City goal come from a moment where Bayern could have scored down the other end. The ball was fizzed across. Yeah. Ederson makes a good save. It goes straight down the other end. Upamecano falls over. Fair enough. He slips. Everyone was slipping on that turf tonight. He didn't have a good game, but he wasn't the only one to fall over. He just happened to be the one that fell over in the moment of spotlight. But what was interesting is that City scored in a chaos state. And that is so unlike City. That's a Real Madrid move. You know, nearly concede, go up the other end and punish. That's how Real Madrid have got through in the last couple of years. And the fact that City can now play in that state with Haaland and Grealish there, huge, I think, for their kind of hopes of winning this, but the hopes of winning everything. I think it is generally the one thing that City weren't good at. Now they are good at it, and then that's a pretty scary thing for everybody else.
I think they should say, by the way, the winner gets Jude Bellingham. That's what we have to build that game as. That's the prize.
Bellingham Bowl.
Never mind the Champions League trophy. It should be Jude Bellingham should just be at the stadium waiting to find which team he joins.
In a half and half skirt. Yeah, there you go. This is one of those. Right. Let's go over to the other game tonight, which turned into a bit of a classic, Sam. Inter 3, Benfica 3. 5-3 to Inter on aggregate. I don't think I've ever seen a game which looked less like a 3-3 that suddenly was 3-3.
I can't believe that this ended up as 3-3. you checked with me just before we started. You said, that was 3-3, wasn't it, Sam? And I took like 5 seconds to reply because I needed to check it myself. It just didn't seem real because that didn't really feel like a 3-3. It didn't feel like an absolute thriller. It didn't get me on the edge of my seat at any point. It was a good game, no doubt about it. I've got stuff to say about it, but not your run-of-the-mill 3-3. Anyway, let's go to the takeaways. And I'm going to begin with experience tells. And I think this is something that I underestimated when I was trying to consider how this bout would go, I guess. I did so because I don't like talking about experience, to tell you the truth. And you guys know I think it's a bit cliche. I think it can become a bit of a crutch when talking about football and trying to provide analysis talking about experience because it's just overused. But on this occasion, experience was actually really important, and that worked to Inter's benefit over the course of the 2 legs. And for Benfica, I think they might have got swallowed up by the occasion of this just a little bit. And you look at the squad, and I guess it's kind of understandable. I'm going to run through a couple of names, and I hope you'll agree with me that, like, okay, fine, this can happen. Antonio Silva, breakout star at centre-back this season, teenager, but you don't find too many players playing, consistent centre-back minutes for top teams, and there's a reason why, and it's because it's generally a position where experience tells. And he did manage to score in the 86th minute with a header from a free kick, but unfortunately for the 85 minutes before, he really struggled with Dzeko's like wily physicality and his jockeying and the way he was jostling with Silva off the on the ball when dueling for it. And Lautaro's movement, was really, really good. And this was a real test for Silva, and he just couldn't quite get there because he's very young and he's very inexperienced. He looked through the rest of the squad as well. Gonzalo Ramos is what, 1 year beyond Silva. He's on his second year as a first team footballer. So again, there's plenty of room to grow. This is, I think, Frederick Alsness' first Champions League season. It can be very easy to forget that Florentino Luis was on loan at Getafe last year. Yep. He has come back into the Benfica setup and really taken off. So, yes, they've got some veterans. They've got Otamendi, they've got João Mario, but a good chunk of this team, and I think I overlooked it, are playing on this kind of stage and playing in this kind of game for possibly the very first time. And you know what? It's tough. It's really difficult. And I think this 90-minute period and these 180 minutes really a real argument in favour for the experience in a football team.
Yeah, I think this is nice. I actually think that it was another kind of nice touch is that Roger Schmidt almost felt like he realised this. And late on, he blooded a couple of players, not necessarily for the first time in the Champions League, but for the first time in a stadium like the Giuseppe Meazza. Obviously, Joao Neves came on. We saw Scheldelup come up on as well. Both of them 18 years old. They've come in, and then obviously Benfica actually score a third, and Peter Musa gets the third goal. Fine, whatever. But the moments that they've gone on and gone, right, okay, Joao Neves in particular, getting 10 minutes there, and just being like, okay, cool. Yeah. You got 10 minutes at the Meazza. You're 18 years old. Next time Benfica get to this stage, and you know what? If they can hold some of this team together, obviously there's going to be some interest in some of these players. Gonzalo Ramos headlining the pack, fine. But actually, when you look at this side and you're looking at who comes through, they'll go again, this Benfica side. And generally, I think the way that he blooded a couple of players there at the end, just very smart management from Schmidt. And just enough to be like, look, this is the first time we've got here. We're going to make these experiences count, and we're going to learn from them. And that's what it felt like towards the end of this game for Benfica.
The United States Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization.
Earn great pay with outstanding federal benefits and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives. Learn more online at cbp.gov/careers/USBP.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code PLAY100. That's code PLAY100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. It's a nice thing to say. I hadn't thought about that because my next point is to spin a positive for Benfica because I thought I could only find one, but you found another. The other is that David Neres played really, really well. So just to give Benfica some positivity, he came off the bench at halftime and he played extremely well. He's one of the only players there that really played to his level. Really positive on the ball. He did something that no other Benfica player really did, which was run with the ball directly at Inter. And even Rafa Silva wasn't really doing this. He got a couple of runs in transition early on, but in settled possession when Benfica had the ball and they were in Inter's territory and Inter were blocking up defensively, no one really had the confidence or the wherewithal to just take the ball and just run directly in a straight line, 10 yards. Neres came on, did it twice, got into the box, fizzed one across goal that Alsness was trying to get all the end off from right back. And then he did it, and then he ran into the box again and caused chaos. And then later, he hit the post when he probably should have scored, but he picked up on a defensive error and struck the post. And so it's only small, and you've lost 5-3, but David Neres was very, very good. So shouts out to him, because on a night where mostly Benfica failed to hit their usual levels, Neres, he found it.
Yeah, I don't think this game was lost tonight. And I know that you don't think so either.
Yeah.
There were moments in the first leg, and we've spoken about it at length, but Gonzalo Ramos' effort right at the end of that first leg, where he could have pulled it back to 2-1 and given Benfica a fighting chance going into this, felt like a massive moment. And even when they went to 1-1 tonight, it didn't feel like it. And you mentioned at the start, the fact that this game never felt edge of the seat, and I completely agree. And I think that part of that was just because of the way that the goals flowed. It went to 3-0.
Yes.
Then it went to 3-1, and then it went to 5-1, and then it went back to 5-3. And it just never felt like Benfica were in the tie. And I think that probably doubles down on what we were saying at the beginning.
Yeah, Inter just got this 2-goal cushion the whole time. Maybe you're brought to the edge of your seat when it gets to 1, but they just kept chipping away and getting ahead, and Benfica was sort of chasing them up the ladder. And unfortunately, it just never happened for them. But I'll come on to the final point, and I'm just going to call it Italian pride. And it links to Inter, but I think it links to the semi-final too. So Inter have hit the semi-finals. Huge congratulations to them. That's a monumental achievement. And I've been harsh on them over the last couple of weeks when we've been talking about these games, but they've made it. Well done. And they've made it for the first time since 2010, which is when they won it. And they're also into the semi-finals under the guidance of an Italian manager for the first time in just over 40 years. And they've done it with an all-Italian back three of Darmian, Acerbi and Bastoni, Italian Di Marco on the left, and an Italian duel in Barella in midfield. And look, this isn't a criticism of previous iterations of Inter or their policies. I love the globalized game. But in 2023, when there's so many nationalities playing in so many different countries and teams can feel so mixed and so international, sometimes it's quite nice to see a team with a homegrown spine and a homegrown feel. And it's particularly nice when it's an Italian side with an Italian defensive spine. It just kind of feels right. So I certainly appreciated it. The Giuseppe Meazza crowd certainly appreciated. I think AC Milan laid the gauntlet down, didn't they, last week with the atmosphere?
Yeah.
And I think the Inter fans walked into that same stadium, into those same seats tonight and thought, we got something to live up to here. And they were brilliant, the noise, the chants, the lights, 75,000 bouncing bodies when they'd scored that second goal. And of course, this Italian pride theme, it extends into Italy will have a team in the final. We have a Derby della Madonnina.
Milan will have a team in the final.
And one of Inter or AC Milan will have a team in the final. That's it. And I just would never, ever have guessed that at the start of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. Also, it's quite a nice touch that it is Inter, obviously. The name of the club and the founding kind of element of the club was based on the idea that teams would, players would not be judged on nationality, that they would accept foreign players just as heartily as they would accept Italian footballers in an era where, that wasn't necessarily always the case. And so actually for it to be a side named after the global game that are taking an Italian core into the semi-finals of Europe's premier competition, there's something quite lovely about that, isn't there? There's something nice and I was going to say ironic, but that sounds kind of negative, and I don't mean for it to be negative at all. It just feels like one of those things that's slightly different.
Yeah, of course. Inter have always they've always felt like they've had a stronger Argentinian core than Italian core at times, haven't they? Over the years, so many great Argentinians to play for them. Obviously, some great Italians too. But yeah, I like the feel of that spine, and to their credit as well, over the course of these 2 legs and the Porto games, Darmian exceptional, Bastoni exceptional, Acerbi solid. Like they're doing their bit.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice identity.
Absolutely. Yes, very good side. Very good side. And I'm really looking forward to that semi-final as well.
The new Chevy Silverado HD puts you in command. Own strength with its enhanced available Duramax 6.6-liter turbo diesel V8. Own the lake with its available advanced towing technology. And own technology with an available 13.4-inch diagonal touchscreen. The new Chevy Silverado HD. Own work, own play, own life. Learn more at Chevy.com. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
Right, let's move on to yesterday's games. And DJ, you're up because Chelsea lost 2-0 to Real Madrid in a scoreline that absolutely nobody could have predicted. No one thought that Real Madrid were going to get through this tie. Everyone thought that Chelsea were a heavy favourite. So for them to lose at home, especially under this management and the quality that's really there, huge shock here.
Stop it. Right, number 3. Look, so ahead of kickoff, like a lot of people were making fun of Lampard for his team selection. Chelsea fans were like absolutely gobsmacked at what they were looking at on paper. It looked like they were playing
3-6-1 with a false 9.
Back 3 with 6 midfielders, basically. Yeah, and actually, like in the reality, and they were energetic. They pressed high. They tried to force moments, and they had big chances. They just can't score goals. They just can't finish. Like Todd Bowley's sitting there in his posh seat, looking at his team. He spent £600 million on. They can't hit the net. Like, how much do I have to spend to score a goal? Like, how much does this game cost? Chelsea had 19 shots at goal. Only 6 of them on target and scored no goals. 19 shots. My granddad used to tell me that if you had 10 shots, 1 will go in. Not true, granddad.
Oh, not this again.
So, look, he
was right usually.
It was a pretty simple game plan in its philosophy. Run a lot, charge down a lot, and take your chances when they come. They just can't do that. By the end of the night, they'd had Sterling, Mudryk, João Felix, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, all on the pitch trying to score. And between them, they come up with a big fat 0. Those 6 players are worth about £400 million between them. And it's just absolute madness. And, so actually defending Frank Lampard a little bit there. Actually, there's been a couple of times so far, his structural setup for the game has actually been okay. He has actually set out with decent plans. They just haven't been able to be pulled off and modified throughout the game. That's probably their biggest problem right now. They can't adapt in-game. Now, number 2, the one thing Lampard definitely can't account for is individual errors. And you definitely don't expect ones, like the one that Cucurella made. He's decided...
Well, I don't know. I think Chelsea fans probably do at this point.
Well, to charge out of position. So he's on the halfway line, basically. Madrid have possession. They play it like from midway inside their own half on the far side, back into the defence, basically, onto their own edge of their own box almost. And yeah, look, Cucurella just thinks, I can get to that. Sam's showing on the screen now the diagram that I drew for him to try to explain what Cucurella actually tried to pull off. It's like a 40-yard sprint. He's trying to race a football, basically. You can't beat a football. You can't get there.
Did he
quicker.
learn nothing from watching Goal 1? Because that is literally the whole point of Goal 1.
So what happens is he gets to the centre-back. He's like, what on earth are you doing here? Quickly switches the ball into the gap that he's left behind. And off they go. Chalobah's left for dead. 10 seconds later, Rodrygo's celebrating his goal. Just an absolute mindless decision from Cucurella, and it's exactly the moment that Madrid have been waiting for. Like, that is what they live for. Somebody making a stupid error that they can absolutely exploit. This team will always be ruthless in big matches like this. every single time they play. And look, there it was, 58 minutes, happy days, tie is dead. Now, obviously, they went on and scored a second too, 10 minutes from time. And at number one, I think it's worth giving Rodrygo his big moment here. I know it's tradition that I would spend this moment talking about Vinicius Jr., but I think he can take a back seat for this one. He's done his work in the Champions League for a little bit. Rodrygo is going to get the credit here. His role was on the right side of the attack, but he was so fluid. He'd often crop up on the other flank. He was hard to keep track of. He brought others into the game. He confused Chelsea with his movement, and he was a real spark. And when he plays like this, it's really interesting. Obviously, we're talking about Coman in my other game and how he was able to try and bring some life into Bayern. Now, look, Rodrygo is probably a bit more of a presence in Bayern, in Real Madrid's setup than Coman has been. But still, you've always had that feeling that Ancelotti doesn't 100% trust him. Like, I'm never sure. It's always like he's begrudgingly stuck him in the starting 11 because he couldn't come up with another option, because he couldn't put Valverde there again or something. But on the back of this, I think he's got a lot of credit in the bank. He was involved in a lot of what was good about Real Madrid's play. He was creating moments, spaces, opportunities all the time. And now I think he's given Ancelotti enough of a performance here to show him, and probably everyone else that was doubting him, that he can deliver on big stages. And it gives him a headache now. Can he play against Man City? Does Ancelotti start him in that fixture when they go head-to-head?
His record in the Champions League is amazing.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely unbelievable.
He's like Mr. Champions League. He scored a hat-trick on his debut or something against Galatasaray, and it was like a perfect hat-trick. Left, right, header. Jack was mocking me because I actually wasn't a big fan of him at the time. And Jack was like, "Oh, look, the guy you don't like just scored a perfect hat-trick on his Champions League debut."
And he was about 8.
Mostly right. So he's now on 15 goals, 9 assists in 19 Champions League starts. And I'm reading a tweet from BR Football here. He is 2 goals away from being Real Madrid's joint 4th top goal scorer in history in the Champions League. Man. He is 22 years of age. I mean, he's not guaranteed a spot in the team, Dean. You're right, and it's never felt like he is. But I don't think that speaks poorly of Rodrygo. I just think it speaks to how difficult it is to nail down a place in this Real Madrid 11. That's just the level they are. There's like 2 or 3 of them that are definitely in. And it's Courtois and Benzema and Vinny. The rest of you're going to have to fight it out.
Pretty much. I think there's definitely an element also of the idea that, and you kind of touched on it, DJ, that he feels a little bit in Vinicius' shadow, because Vinicius has always kind of been the poster boy, and Rodrygo kind of felt like the other guy who they also signed as a youngster a year later for like a similarly big fee. It was like, oh, we got the model by Vinicius Jr. and then we also bought Rodrygo. He like in the kind of thought process of where he seems, he felt a bit like an afterthought. And I don't necessarily think that that's true, but I just think that's how it's potentially perceived. And
I agree,
He was less hype.
He's always been, I think, one of those players that you look at it and go, he's been more clinical than Vinicius, especially to begin with. He was the one who was scoring the goals. He was the one where if a chance appeared to either of them, you'd be like, give that to Rodrygo, please, because Vinicius, to begin with, again, couldn't finish his dinner. And then actually, suddenly, he became that player. He broke out. He started scoring goals. Everyone started trusting him. And it was kind of forgotten that Rodrygo had just been sort of doing that all the way through. And actually, I think that's a really interesting kind of dynamic and an interesting thing between the two of them in terms of how it works.
I'm surprised they're still friends. I reckon they fell out a long time ago.
Like Sané and Mano.
Maybe, hopefully not.
Yeah, lad, I mean, once we get to the prediction of that game, I don't know where I'm going to be. That Real Madrid-Man City game has become a real mess in my mind now after watching Man City tonight. But I've already backed that Real Madrid to win the Champions League this season, and I'll obviously lose my house and my family if that doesn't happen because I've been so sure about it. And I'm like, oh God, blimey.
Every season's the same. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be the same. Right, let's go to our 4th and final game, which was Napoli against AC Milan. Sam, what did you take away from this one?
Okay, so first and foremost, I need to talk about this defensive effort from AC Milan over the course of 2 legs, sure, but obviously getting it done in the Maradona on the second leg. And it's the defensive structure and the sheer effort that has basically paved the way for victory here. And there's two players that we need to talk about. I tweeted about them. I said one is having a loudly excellent game and one is having a quietly excellent game. I think by the end of the game, they were both loud. The first is Davide Calabria, who, fresh off cancelling Kvara in the first leg, went most of the way to doing it again in the second leg. It wasn't quite as much of a blanket performance, but it was still pretty damn good. And the stat sheet reads 5 tackles, 6 interceptions, 9 duels won. Not bad for a fullback. Kvara slipped in and slipped through a couple of times. He hit the byline once and he wriggled through 2 at once as well. But generally speaking, again, he was held at arm's length and he missed a penalty. He did get a bit of help, and credit to Pioli as well. He basically fielded Brahim Diaz right wing and just said, just double up on Kvara and give me everything you've got for 60 minutes. Wring yourself dry. And then when you're done, I'll bring on Junior Macias and I'll get him to do the other part. Pass the baton. And that's exactly what they did. Macias did the final 30 and they doubled him and tripled him and they were brilliant. But Calabria, you need to bring a certain intensity to really get the better of Kvara and throw him off his game. And Calabria found it twice in a row. Absolutely brilliant. The second player was Fikayo Tomori. So he was quietly doing the business in the first half and he just came more and more into it in the second. He did concede a penalty.
Yeah, I would admit it's not his fault.
Which sounds, it always sounds weird to say, apart from when he conceded the penalty, he was great. It's a bit like when Dean said on Wednesday, apart from when he missed that pressure penalty in the quarter-final, Harry Kane's been great for us at penalties. But it's the same thing, and it is a bit unfortunate. It's like his hand is between his legs below, trying to stabilise or whatever. I thought we weren't giving those anymore, but they were. Yeah, it was given. But he was on hand to marshal Osimhen, and he did so well. He was there to clear ball after ball after ball, always reading the crosses and getting there at the right time. He was very physical with Osimhen and pushed him and jockeyed him, which was really good. And, between he and Kier, they were really, really good. So Kvara was taken out by Calabria and Tomori more or less handled Osimhen with a bit of help from Kier. And with Politano going off injured, the front three were done. They got conquered by hook or by crook. Lucky or not, all 3 of them were more or less taken out of this game. Well done.
Yeah, well, I mean, we spoke beforehand and we said that Osimhen can deal with an entire defence on his own. He couldn't here. He was handled.
Nope,
his service wasn't great, but he was mostly handled, and that's very, very impressive.
Typical Osimhen, though, he still managed to pop up and score a goal.
Oh yeah. You can't keep him quiet for that long.
2 shots. Yeah, 2 shots in the whole game, marshalled by 2 defenders perfectly, and still scores. Ridiculous player. Anyway, let's move on to the next point, and let's turn our focus to the attack. And this is a short one, guys. It's Rafa Leao, and he has just delivered one of the greatest Champions League assists of all time, surely. He's about 30 yards from his own goal when he picks this ball up. He just runs and runs and runs and runs some more. And you know the way he runs, it makes us all weak at the knees, doesn't it? Because it's so smooth. Yep. And the way he glides and he surfs. And he doesn't really change direction that much. There's no cutting. Yes, he sort of drifts and maneuvers, but it's so smooth. And he obviously takes the ball off and Ndombele runs past him. Di Lorenzo, terrible attempt at sticking the leg out. I don't know what Di Lorenzo's doing. Just take him out if you're going to do that. If you're going to take yourself out of the game, just take him out too. And then Rahmani tries a slide tackle, very bold, very bad. Gets past him too, squares at Vigiroux, one of the easiest goals he's ever scored. Just jaw-dropping. I'm sat there screaming and shouting at my TV as he takes them on and beats them one by one. It's absolutely amazing.
I was so happy, man. I was so happy. Obviously, I'd backed Milan anyway to get through that tie. But I needed Leao to turn up big time if that was going to happen. And that was it. That was the moment they needed. Just ridiculous. Ridiculous to do that on that sort of... that level, to run like that past people. I just can't... I watched it so many times. It's just this is so good. This is so good. I saw afterwards as well. He's kind of talking he's saying all the right things now. I'm staying at Milan. Obviously all the speculation has been running around him, and now he'll probably end up staying unless he wins the Champions League and thinks I can't do anything else here. I've just won the league and the Champions League. What's the point of me staying here? Go somewhere else.
I'm done.
What a player!
It's like pressing. Yeah. It's like pressing the button, isn't it? The big red and black button. it unleashes the nuclear option. And I think that when you have a moment like that, I mean, Sam, you said he was a one-man counter-attacking weapon. I think I took that to another level on Twitter last night. I said one-man counter-attacking weapon of mass destruction. And it really does feel like when he gets into these moods, there's just nothing you can do to stop him. And look, it turned out that this ended up being a battle between the two young star boy left wingers of Serie A. And Leao stepped up and made the difference. And Kvaratskhelia, who's had such a brilliant season, and I do think looks a bit tired at this point generally, and people are maybe cottoning on to exactly how he plays fine, but he also just doesn't have that kind of moment and dynamic as much as he did at the beginning of the season. I think that there's just a little bit of fatigue setting in for Kvara. But I think in these kind of moments, Leao has exploded into life and made something happen. And obviously the game suited him and the way that Napoli played and controlled suited him.
They're playing different.
But one of them is decisive
sure.
and the other one isn't. And that's what's happened here. And that's the reason that Milan are in the semi-final and Napoli are not.
Yes, that's true. That's part of the reason. And I think you've led me on nicely to the final point here, where we will have to talk about the losers, unfortunately. I'd love to sit here literally all night with you and talk about, Mike Maignan, Ismail Benacer, Simon Kjær. They were like 5 or 6 of these guys were absolutely unbelievable. But we need to talk about Napoli for a moment. And yes, obviously, as you say, that it's gone slightly wrong there. But I can't help but shake the feeling that without anything absolutely massive happening, this could barely have gone more like generally wrong, domino after domino after domino for Napoli, because they've had an amazing season, but these 2 games against Milan can just prove to you that in a heartbeat in football, just everything can just go wrong. And I'm watching them work this ball around in the second half, trying to patiently probe for a goal to try and get back into this thing. And I'm sat there watching them. I'm thinking, right, we've got no Anguissa, who's suspended. We've got no Kim, who's suspended. Kim's replacement, João Jesus, has his head wrapped in a bandage to stop him from bleeding. Osimhen is alternating between sprinting and limping. He's basically half fit. Politano went off screaming earlier. Haven't seen him since. And then later, Rahmani comes off and misses the last 12, 13 minutes because he has tweaked something too. You've missed a penalty. You've missed a half-open goal in the first 30 seconds of the first leg. It's pretty savage, isn't it? Like, I can't think of a worse. How could it go worse? Like, in like a very like subtle domino effect, it all racked up on them. And I'm like, what a way for your Champions League adventure to end. Top scorers in the competition through the group stages, battered Liverpool, made all those waves. Of course, it's still an amazing season. Never going to take that away from them. But like in the Champions League, good Lord, did it turn fast on Napoli.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like a bit of a sour taste to the end of this season. Like, obviously, like they're still going to celebrate wildly when they win the league. But like what Milan have done to them in the past few weeks is a bit like... crippling's probably a bit strong, but like, it's not great, is it?
No.
You're actually not the best team in Italy. You're not the best team in Italy because you're getting seen to in like this.
I'm not sure that's quite true, but I think what is interesting is that the fans afterwards stayed and the chant that rang around, and the Roma women's team did this after they lost in the Champions League to Barcelona. It was the song of "We're going to win the league." And Napoli's fans did it yesterday as well. At the final whistle, the song was "We are going to win the league." And I thought that was a nice touch, just a kind of sign of solidarity with the players who have given so much this season and also gave so much last night. This was not through a lack of effort or through a perceived lack of exertion. They gave everything to the point where players were, the walking wounded by the end of it. And so for the fans to stay and make that kind of judgment, I thought was really, really nice. But I thought it was interesting, Sam, what you said there. If someone was asking me to describe this tie from a Napoli perspective, you could do it quite simply by just saying 2-1 Savage.
Oh no, he's one of I don't like the way you've ended that. He's one of my least favourite rappers. Do it again. Do something else. Do a different reference.
No, that's it. That's what we're sticking with. That pretty much is it from us. I'm going to leave it on that reference. All that's left for me to do today. Thank you so much to all of you for listening today. And thank you so much to the Rank God, Mr. Sam Tai.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you so much to our transfer guru, Mr. Dean Jones.
Cheers, mate.
I've been Jack Collins, Knave of Hearts. This has been the Ranks FC podcast. We do have more coming for you this week. There's an extra episode on Friday on our Patreon, which will be a spotlight looking at the weekend ahead. There's more on the YouTube channel as well, where I'll be doing UE Ultras tomorrow, all talking about things in the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. Would love it if you went and checked that out. We will see you, if not next week, here back on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you very shortly. Take it easy. Peace.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.